Good afternoon, Senator Reid.
Good afternoon.
As you know, the City of Atlanta administers three separate pension plans, the police, fire, and general employee body. As of the last actuarial report, the funds in total were over $1 billion unfunded liability.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about your ideas on how you would actually fill the gap of that unfunded liability?
Well, I think that we need to start by looking at why the liability was exacerbated. We had votes in 2001 and 2005, votes around the pension benefit for our firefighters and police officers, and then again in 2005 we had votes which increased the pension benefits for our general employees in 2005. So if you look at Atlanta between 2002 and 2009, our budget has increased by $100 million. 51% of that is a result of the pension liability. So of the $100 million, we're spending $51 million on the pension. So we should start by where we went wrong. Where did we make mistakes in the past that drove up the cost of our pension benefit program? Now, I want to be crystal clear. I do not want to break faith with any of the employees who are currently benefiting under the program, but we have to understand and acknowledge that we're going to have to do things differently on a going forward basis. So what would I do? Well, I authored the Senate version of HB 371, which, as you know, Commissioner, was a very important step in changing the asset mix for municipalities and county governments in the state of Georgia. What that bill did was to allow municipal governments to invest in funds that were different from bonds. Currently, our county and municipal governments were overweighted in bonds, so during the run-up of stocks, they were not allowed to participate and benefit as so many other vehicles did. We changed that this legislative session. You know, it was a very tough fight. We had tried 2 times before and failed, but working with Representative Earl Earhart in the House, we were able to get that bill through, and it's going to provide a significant benefit for the city of Atlanta. So I recognize the problem as a member of the General Assembly. That would be job one. The second thing that I would do is to look for the city and municipality that does a better job and has faced this challenge and does it better than Atlanta. We have not undertaken that study. I mean, this is not a new problem. Major cities all across the United States, not just in Georgia, are going through that exact same process. What I would do is to find out who is doing it best, and then I would take the team that I'm going to assemble to help me solve this problem within the first 60 days and go to whatever city is doing it better than Atlanta. Cobb County, for example, had a $350 million liability, certainly not as challenging as Atlanta's billion, but they immediately enacted 5 steps to end the problem. The one thing that we haven't done in the city of Atlanta right now is change the pension program for new employees who are coming into government. So, for example, if you take the position that you're not going to change the program at all for employees that are working today, you can certainly modify the program for employees that are coming into the system. But what we have done in Atlanta right now is not to address it in a serious way. The only thing that we did during this budget process was to amortize the debt and take it further out, which is going to cost us literally tens of millions of dollars more, as you know, Commissioner, in more liability. So in the street vernacular, all we did was really kick the can down the road and not turn into this problem. This is the most serious financial risk that the city of Atlanta faces right now. And you needn't look any farther than General Motors to see what this kind of pension problem can do to the city of Atlanta. So in sum, I would identify a group of experts to make recommendations to me. I would appoint that panel within the first 30 days. I would have them make recommendations within 100 days. I have acted and changed the law to diversify the asset classes that the city can invest in right now. That will help. And I believe that we need to put all of the options, aside from breaking faith with employees who have retired under the system, under the table to address this problem. And I will want a report out and recommendations back to me within the first 100 days of my administration, because I believe that this is the most serious threat facing the city of Atlanta's financial strength.
Okay. You actually just answered 3 of my other questions. So
I apologize for that.
Thank you for that.
You should have just, be quiet would have been fine.
Well, it was really good. The other parts, you talked a lot about retaining police officers, attracting police officers.
Yes.
One of the recommendations on the 2004 Pension Advisory Committee was to implement a drop plan or deferred retirement plan for senior
Yes.
officers. What are your thoughts about that, if you have any on that topic?
My thought is that that is a program that is not only good, but it's going to be essential. It is similar to the expert teachers retirement program that we implemented at the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia actually has a similar problem because we have a number of very talented teachers who are going to be retiring and leaving a gap in terms of qualified teachers in our city, in our state. So I think that the drop program is appropriate, but I would certainly want to meet with our actuarial team with the city of Atlanta and make sure that when we implement that program, that we can implement it without it making the problem around our pension issue worse.
Okay. And the drop program, of course, does not address the younger talent that you're trying to get into the police department. What do you do for that group of people, or those group of people you're trying to attract to get into the workforce?
But with the younger group, one, I'm going to change the command staff, because younger officers are significantly impacted by morale. That's what I've been hearing directly from the women and men on the force. The second thing that I am going to do is to restore, either through public funding or private funding, the educational benefits for officers. For example, the Atlanta Police Foundation has funded scholarships for about 298 of the city's police officers. Of the 298 individuals who've gone through that program and gotten additional educational benefits, we have an attrition rate of about 2%. So the attrition rate for officers who receive educational opportunities improved significantly, so I believe that that's a good investment. I am going to restore step increases from officers, and under no circumstances will I implement a furlough that impacts police and fire. Those are some of the steps that I would take to attract the younger officers and make sure that they remain satisfied. So leadership, compensation, and there's one other point that I need to make. The workers' compensation program for public safety officials has to be one that is respected and that the officers have confidence in. Currently, the men and women of the police department are very concerned about the provider NovaPro that works in the workers' compensation space. I have heard directly from officers that this is a real concern, because when you're putting your life in harm's way, you can't fear that if something bad happens to you, that you won't be able to get the health care that you need. So I would address that personally as well.
Okay. The police and fire pension programs are actually administered by third parties. The general employee plan is not. Would you consider outsourcing that administration for efficiency purposes?
All options will be on the table, with the exception of breaking faith with the people who are getting benefits from the pension program right now. So the answer is that I would consider it. I would do so in partnership with leaders from the firefighters, police, and employees. Let's flesh that out a bit. Let me tell you why all options have to be on the table. It strikes me that the improvement in '01, or the quasi-improvement in '01 and '05, was really a false promise, because what Atlanta has done since it implemented those benefits is fire 2,000 people. And what they've done is they created a liability that was costing the city so much money that the only way that you can meet that obligation is to fire people. So it has created an environment within City Hall that is very difficult to manage. So I believe that by putting those options on the table, you can have that conversation. But let's be real clear. The notion of improved benefits, I think, is a false one, because you're creating a liability that's forcing you to fire more and more people and creating an unstable workforce within municipal government.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.